Let's talk about our hopes and dreams beyond the reach it seems. Let's talk. Confess I live in hell. I failed to fall in scheme. Maybe we can find a pathway forward or a clue. So we may together be a symbiotic harmony where I can talk to you, you can talk to me. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk, let's talk, let's talk.
Welcome to the Talk Vermont, and my name is Reverend Arnold Thomas. This is the third of a three-part session on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and I am pleased to welcome today Wafic Faour, who is a Palestinian Vermonter, and he will further introduce himself. But before I do that, I want to also let you know that the Talk Vermont is in its sixth season, its sixth year. And it began as an effort to try and familiarize all of Vermont with the interests and concerns of Vermonters of color. And so we have been doing this for nearly 6 years, and our effort is to try and engage Vermonters in dialogue with important topics that affect Vermonters of color. It is called the Talk Vermont, based on an important conversation that African American parents often have with their children or loved ones regarding ways of surviving in a racially hostile environment, especially when it comes to law enforcement. I imagine that these are conversations that all Vermonters, all people of color, have with their loved ones in an effort to try and find ways by which they can survive as marginalized communities in an often hostile environment. And I nonetheless also feel that these sort of conversations need to take place among all people, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of their race, gender, sexual orientation, because in a nation and world that is becoming increasingly dominated by people of color, it is important for all individuals to have conversations, important dialogues as to how they might contribute to a productive society in which all interact and relate to one another in very peaceful and positive ways rather than destructive sort of ways. So I welcome you to this particular session of the Talk Vermont, and let's get started. Again, my guest today is a person, an individual, a friend that I've known for a long time, Wafic Faour. And Wafic, could you just introduce yourself further, what you do, how long you've been in Vermont, and why this particular topic is important to you?
My name is Wafic Faour. I born Palestinian refugee in Lebanon from Palestinian mother and Palestinian father, who became refugees in 1948 when the establishment of a state of Israel forced hundreds of thousands of Palestinians and pushed them out from Palestine and took the land, the water, the houses, and destroyed 524 villages in Palestine to create what's so-called and what we call the entity of Israel of today. I disagree with the Jewish and Palestinian Vermonters because Palestinian and Jewish people, they have no problem with each other's. We never fought as Palestinians the people who came as occupiers because they are Jews. we differentiate between Judaism as a religion that we as Palestinian, Christian and Muslim believe on that faith too, and the Zionist ideology that have been created on 1896, 1897 by Theodor Herzl, and created the idea that the Jews are not only religion but ethnic group and they deserve homeland. And they were shopping around on Africa, Latin America, Argentina, Ghana, many other places, and they set up on Palestine, you know. Even though Palestine was populated of hundreds of thousands of people, they created idea on Europe and the West that it is land with no people for people with no land. And since then, since 1948 until today, the Israeli, this Zionist regime on the Middle East, which came from all over the world to create that entity, they are fighting everybody, but they never named the Palestinians as people and as exist. If you look at the history, the way they talk about it, they call it Israeli-Arab War in 1948, you know, Israeli-Arab War in 56 and 67, you know. They, in 82, Israeli PLO war, and now Israeli-Hamas war. Mm-hmm. They never accepted to call it as is, which is they are fighting the Palestinian, and not only the resistance of the Palestinian against the occupation, but the Palestinian existence as a people. And that's why we are witnessing now not a conflict as some people they call it, which is, I disagree with the second one. We have to name things, and the words are important and powerful. Conflict, it is not containing, if two people have a problem and the problem comes on as a genocide as we live it now, as ethnic cleansing as we live it now, starvation as we live it now, and occupation for 77 years. It's not conflict anymore. Mm. Mm-hmm. We have a Zionist movement want to displace the indigenous people of Palestine, and it creates something very Western on the heart of what we call now the Middle East. And it has a job to do, that entity. A lot of people, they say, we are creating it for safety of the Jews. And the Western world sold it to its people, including in the United States, that creating State of Israel, it will help the Jewish people who suffered through history, that they will have a place of their own and they will feel safe. But I look at it, the Jews all over the world, they walk on the street and they flourishing and thriving, and they don't have to carry guns the way they are doing in Israel, Palestine. Mm-hmm. All of them are settlers, carrying guns, moving from war to war, you know, taking more land, you know, and creating more problems and more massacres. We have to name it as is. So it is not a conflict, and it is not a Jewish Palestinians. It's a Zionist Israel and the Palestinian people in historical Palestine.
Okay, so I, in fact, this is you. Everyone who are listening to this broadcast should know. Again, this is a third in a series of conversations, sessions devoted to the Israeli-Palestinian and it's been entitled conflict. And you're saying it really should be not understood as a conflict.
If we are living genocide,
But it's
if we are living starvation,
but more of the Israeli genocide against Palestinians.
of course.
Yeah. So given the reality of the present day situation, and let me also inform the viewers that in our first session we had a group of Vermont Jews representing Wahhabi Zedek Synagogue, Mount Sinai Synagogue, and a person who was not affiliated with either of the synagogues, but nonetheless is a Jewish Vermonter and who had views regarding this particular topic. They represented the position of Israel remaining as a Jewish state, even though they had concerns, not just concerns, but really opposition to what the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was inflicting upon Palestinians. They still advocated for the existence of Israel as a Jewish state. The second session was devoted to other points of views among Jewish Vermonters who were in fact opposed to Israel as a Jewish state and felt that that the existence of Israel as a Jewish state represented a form of apartheid. And this is our third session with Wafic, a Palestinian Vermonter who has shared parts of his concerns regarding the existence of Israel. And so again, I'm grateful to have you here. But to follow up on that, on the question, you mentioned that Jews within Israel are not living with the kind of security that they may have anticipated when Israel was established. There are Jews throughout the world who are trying to assimilate, adjust, live within the context of broader societies. And there, even among Jews during the time of the latter part of the 1800s, when the Zionist movement was pretty much up and running, there were many Jews who opposed the existence of a Zionist or a Jewish state. Could you explain a little bit more as to reasons why, from your point of view?
I mean, it's understandable that anti-Semitism existed in the white European countries, and the Jewish people suffered greatly from the racism that the European inflicted harm on the Jewish communities in many places through the centuries, to extreme that the white European, during many centuries, including the 19th century, they called it the Jewish problem, and they called it the Jewish question. And to solve it, they created this idea of let's take the Jewish people and create one place for them, and we will solve the question and we will end what the European called Jewish problem. Actually, the problem was the European racism against the Jews, and they didn't allow them to own or to work, or to own a land or to work on certain jobs, etc., etc. So the first idea of Zionism, it was a Christian Zionist, not a Jewish Zionist. And we saw it crystallized by Balfour Declaration in 1917.
Yeah.
So to go back, many successful and known Jewish, including Einstein, opposed this idea to make a nationalism out of a religion of the Jewish people, and they know what does it mean to the Jewish people, because it's not out of the generosity of the West they created that nation. The West tried to occupy Palestine through history and to control that piece of land.
And for a while, the Jews were expelled from Palestine.
By the Roman.
By the Romans, right.
Yeah, by the Roman and by others, Nebuchadnezzar and others. But the idea that as recent 19th century, Napoleon, the French tried to take it and the British came over it, is to create a new body on the Middle East that they use it as a military base.
Yeah.
So practically, the West are using the Jews to do that. And that's why you find it is of interest to the Western world, including United States, to keep Israel as a front and a scarecrow to the rest of the Middle East, and to keep the Middle East divided as the West divided it under Sykes-Picot. Otherwise, we were all one country, one nation, living together, traveling through it with no idea or passports, Now we are divided to multi-countries that the French and the British colonialists created. And on top of that, they created post-colonialist government, similar to what happened in Africa and Latin America. And this is how they control the wealth of the Middle East and the navigation way on the seas around the Middle East, from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean to Suez Canal to. So for some Jews, they thought it's better for them to be a nation and they will be safe. And I will say this is how they get sold to the idea, how they branded the idea that to be. And I'm saying, look at for the 77 years, I don't see our Jewish siblings walking on the streets here in Vermont with guns, but they do on occupied Palestine and Israel, what they call Israel. The idea for your two guests who says, well, we want a Jewish state over there. It's necessary for us, but we oppose Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, because of what he's doing now or how it's showing around the world. I will say it's always every Prime Minister of Israel since Ben-Gurion, they did massacres against Palestinians. And they did ethnic cleansing as Palestinians. From Ben-Gurion to Shamir to Sharon to every one of them declared war against the Palestinians, and the Palestinians suffer under. To call it a Jewish state when they are not majority between the river and the sea, how is that?
When you say the river, you mean the Jordan River and the Mediterranean?
The Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. How is that possible? Just because you want it to be Jewish state. What that means? It means you are supporting a supremacist idea of the land, that the Jews, they living under certain kind of laws and the Palestinian under another. And this is where is our struggle for. That all that land, historical Palestine, from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea, now, the majority are not the Jewish people. And Israel, because Israel doesn't have a constitution like United States, Israel created sets of law for each area for the Palestinians. Of course, the Jews are the supremacists, mainly the white Jewish people, the Ashkenazi, the one who came from Europe and United States. But for the Palestinian Arabs, who Israel refused to call them Palestinians, they call them Israeli Arabs. The 2.2 million, which is over 20% of the population of Israel, they call them Israeli Arab. There are at least 62 laws discriminate against them. And you can read reports from Beit Salem, the Israeli Human Rights Organization. You can read the reports from Amnesty International. You can read the report of Human Rights Watch. All says that all the laws, it's against the Palestinian or the people from the Palestinian origin. Those are called Israeli Palestinian, which is my cousins. They still live there in Galilee, and they suffer from having their own waters, you know. The housing, you can see it. Since 1948, Israel destroyed 524 villages and municipalities. Since 48 until 225, not one single new Arab neighborhood. All the new neighborhoods are Jewish-only neighborhoods, settlers that they are only Jews can live in. Not only in 1948 land, but on the West Bank as well. You can find it in education. The spending for Jewish schools are 4 times of the Arab Palestinian schools. You can find it on healthcare. Not one single state-operated hospital on the Arab neighborhood. Not one single state-operated hospital. All our hospitals are sponsored by churches or non-governmental organizations. So the services there is discriminatory. You will say, well, it happens everywhere. Here, our black brothers and sisters on their neighborhood, they don't have the same services that the white neighborhood have. I agree with you, mainly on area of safety, the area of housing, the area of healthcare, and education and schools, at least those major topics. But in the United States, they have a constitution. It's not functioning, but they say everybody's equal.
Theoretically, yes, right.
They will say, oh, the Palestinian Arabs, they are members of the Knesset, they are members of the court, they are members of certain areas, they allow them to be members. Well, we had a black presidents here. Does the racism disappeared?
No.
We have a black on the Supreme Court, black judges. Disappeared. The only apartheid work on the United States, and I will call it apartheid, is the way this government in the United States treat our migrants. They treat them on different laws than the rest of the population.
Yeah.
And now it's going farther, that they are treating people with residency but not citizenship as a less of a human, you know? Plus, in all institutionalized racism in the United States, we have to look at it as a mirror of apartheid as well, you know? But apartheid is the law over there. And to call it a Jewish state and the crying victim, if it is not a Jewish state, you are discriminating against other people, the Palestinian people, the indigenous people of that land. And this shouldn't be acceptable.
Now, by the way, I need to correct to some degree a statement that I made earlier. I mentioned that the representatives or members from Mojave Zedek and Temple Sinai represented the synagogues. This should not be understood as them representing the views regarding the situation between Israel and Palestinians. They do not represent the views of the synagogue, because the synagogue itself, the synagogues themselves represent diverse opinions regarding this topic. But they are individual Vermonters who have opinions regarding this particular topic. We're not relaying any formal policy or point of view of any particular organization. These are individual Vermonters who have concern and wish to express those concerns about the situation in Palestine, as is the case with Wafic. But let me ask further of you, Wafic. Given the fact that you have Muslim and so-called Muslim and Christian nations where Christianity or Islam is the state religion, and yet there is an effort to let's take Great Britain, for example. It is a nation in which Anglicanism is the state religion. Yet it has a constitution, a constitutional form of government in which those who are not Christian, theoretically at least, can excel and advance within the political, within the social apparatus of that nation. Can such parallels exist in nations such as Egypt, in which Islam is the state religion, or Saudi Arabia, where Islam is the state religion, and yet allow those who are not Muslim to excel within the apparatus within the society of those nations? Can Israel provide a similar format by which non-Jews, be they non-Jewish culturally or religious, can also excel, or is the present state of Israel such that prevents such advancement, such equality from existing?
From our experience for the last 77 years, the Israeli didn't succeed to treat everybody equally in what's so-called Jewish state. Mm-hmm. Two, majority of the Israeli, they are secular people. They are not a Jewish people on faith. Mm-hmm. According to studies that over 70% of the Israeli consider themselves atheist. But 70% of Israeli believe that God promised them that land. So how are you going to deal with something like mm-hmm. that? For people struggling like us to build one country where the Jews, Christians, and Muslims live together in a secular state as equal citizen, we don't see that a Jewish state or Muslim state or a Christian state work over there. It's not the first time Palestine have been occupied under promise of God. When mm-hmm. the Crusaders came in before them, it was a promise of God too, but different God, mm-hmm. according to how you understand God right. and the promise of God. Here we are saying, and we did, and my parents experienced, where their neighbors are Jewish and their neighbors are Christians, on one village, living together, celebrating holidays together, you know, and helping each other on the harvest time and on the planting time, you know, give a hand to each other and care about each other. That kind of Palestine we are dreaming to bring on. I bet you if tomorrow we declared United States of America as a Christian country, which is majority are Christians. I bet you our Jewish community are the first people who will fight against it.
Yeah.
So if they believe in secularism in general, and they are not based on faith over there, they change it to ethnic group, that the Jews, which is, they can call it whatever they want, but there is right and wrong about it. I don't believe with the laws they created against the Palestinians to be supremacist over the land, to be supremacist over the people, that is acceptable until they become and believe on equality to everybody, living together on the same country, from the river to the sea, under the same laws, same constitution. And the laws can represent everybody. As I said, of those laws discriminating against the Palestinians in Galilee and 1948 Palestinians, there are other military immediate law on the West Bank. And there is laws on Gaza, as we saw, you know. Gaza, it was for 17 years an open-air prison.
Yeah.
The West Bank under military occupation and military laws, even after the peace agreement in Oslo. Israeli soldier, 18 years old, can break any door and go in the West Bank. We saw them just 3 days ago, going inside the banks in Ramallah, the headquarters of the Palestinian Authority, and taking the money from the banks over there, arresting anybody they want. During the last almost 2 years of the butchering of Gaza and the slaughter of Gaza, tens of people get killed, hundreds of people get killed in the West Bank when Hamas is not there. Talking about what's happening over there as if Israel existed there because people fighting it there, like as if the resistance created the occupation, and instead of the occupation, created the resistance.
Yeah.
This is wrong. To talk about it like it's Palestine-Israel conflict or Palestine-Israel war as if two equal. When people like Palestinians, they are under occupation for 77 years. It's under international law, you have right to fight occupation. I remember reading that the Jewish resistance against the Nazis, you know, on the concentration camps. Is that terrorism? No.
Yeah.
No. So the same for the Palestinians.
I'm wondering if there was ever a time between the establishment of Israel as a state in 1948 and the present day when conversation came close to the establishment of a region in which Palestinians shared equal rights with that of Jews. Was you know, some people refer to the Oslo Accord, which took place between Arafat and Clinton, right? And the previous guests often remarked that if such a time could exist, either in the future where such conversations and such accord might exist, there has to be representation and leadership among all sides that allows for that sort of dialogue. Right now we have resistance as far as such conversations within Netanyahu's administration, but there's also division among Palestinians. You have Hamas, you have Hezbollah, and you have the Palestinian Authority. How can conversation exist within such divisions?
Let's go from the end. Hezbollah is Lebanese organization. They don't exist in Palestine.
Okay, so they're not identified.
They are not
as
Palestinian group.
Okay.
So you have Hamas mostly control Gaza after the election or the vote, where they won the majority. But Israel encouraged that division so they continue to have excuse, we don't have a partner for peace. So they fed Hamas, they allowed money from Qatar and others to make Hamas strong and powerful as anti or against the authority. At the same time, the authority, it didn't play a role of building institutions where everybody, every Palestinian have a voice on the authority. So they were what Israel wants them the most. It's a corrupt authority that their job is one and only one, policing the Palestinians so they wouldn't do revolt, intifada against the Israeli occupation. So they kept feeding here and feeding there to keep them divided. But you have not to look at the parties. Resistance existed on all the 77 years. If you say Oslo Accord, yes, there was an agreement, and the agreement supposedly will create Palestinian state on the West Bank and Gaza based on the lines of 1967, before the war.
Right.
And
the 6-Day War. Right?
Yeah, the 6 Days War, which is 5 years later, it's supposed to create some kind of Palestinian administration, Palestinian government, Palestinian body. Through these 5 years, while they are talking and negotiating, we went from 80,000 settlers in the West Bank, which is the land we suppose we are negotiating to create a new state on, went to hundreds of thousands. So what kind of negotiation is that? Where is that state going to be?
Yeah.
So to keep saying, to open dialogue, I heard it from many Zionist Jews. Why we don't talk about it? While we are talking about it, they took the land. They took the water. They took more freedom from us. We don't control any air, any land. You have over 600 checkpoints on West Bank. You have all Gazans are in jail. They cannot get in, get out, So they are creating what we call the Palestinian resistance, that they are not believing of Madrid Convention or Oslo Accord or all that negotiation. Come to yesterday or the day before, where the Palestinian Authority is still believing that we can accomplish Palestinian state, on this land. And they are an observer members of the United Nations. United States simply revoked their visas. And they are coming to the United Nations General Assembly meeting in September. And under the international law, they are allowed to come and to take their seats and to observe and to be a member of the United Nations, where they are waiting more countries to recognize their right of statehood on the historical Palestine. United States single-handedly revoked them of coming over. And this gives us the idea where we're going from here. If the Palestinian and the Israeli talking to each other, and the only broker are United States, and United States are part of the problem. already they sided with Israel. Already they're giving them the weapons that our children, our women, our men are getting killed every day. What kind of peace brokers are they?
Yeah.
If it is Trump administration or Biden and Kamala Harris administration, you know, they never asked once for ceasefire. Biden administration, not once, you know, according to American politicians later and Israeli politicians. They never pressured us, they said, to stop the war. They gave them weapons and more weapons, you know, and shipping more weapons and allowing American Zionists to go and fight over there.
Mm-hmm.
So their alliance are not to the United States, but to Israel as a foreign country.
I have to acknowledge, and I'm sure you also acknowledge that that the term Zionism has pretty much become equated with apartheid, with the understanding of apartheid, or you might even say racism.
Yeah.
And this has ignited a lot of concern and anxiety among Jews as well, who do not wish to equate Zionism with racism. How do you respond to that? Not just you, but those who are similarly minded to this concern.
Always we differentiated between the Jewish faith, the people who believe on Judaism and the prophets of the Jewish people, than Zionism created by Theodor Herzl as a nationality. Zionism as ideology considered racist ideology in the United Nations until early 90s.
Yeah.
It's not. If you study what is Zionism and its supremacy idea of certain people opposing other people, you know, you will say it is a racist ideology. It's no different, you know, than any racist white supremacy over here, if it's KKK or the Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
But it happens us, the Middle Eastern, are the receiving side, you know, of this ideology. And we feel it over here. I think if the people of Israel, the Jewish people here and overseas, fight the apartheid and these discriminatory laws, you know, that we can have a better future together. We have to define first what is the major problem between Palestinian and Israeli to think of solving it or open a dialogue or something like that. Apartheid is one of them. And I think as a person or as an activist, it is a major point. And I hope the Jewish, we have a lot of Jewish support on this. Here in Vermont, we created, you know, an apartheid-free community with the help of American Friends Service Committee, which is a faith Quakers group,
Right.
of a language to oppose all kind of apartheid and all kind of racism over there. And I like to read it for you. And we are introducing it to faith group. Many synagogues signed to it, churches signed to it too, businesses signed to it. But here in Vermont, we went farther. We went direct to the people, to municipalities, collecting signatures and bringing it to the vote, that the public will vote. Last year, we won 5 municipalities, like Winooski at 72%, you know. On southern Vermont, Thetford, you know, over 70%. Brattleboro, 57%. You know, this is to tell you that things are changing, and apartheid is a conflict, and it is a problem. If we don't name it, and talk about it, we are closing our eyes. So what we are asking people to support or sign on, and here we are bringing it back to Burlington because the Democratic member of the council on the City Hall have been opposing to put it to the public twice. And we are trying the third time coming March. And we collecting signatures for that. What does it say? It says, we affirm our commitment to freedom, justice, and equality for the Palestinian people and all people. We oppose all forms of racism, bigotry, discrimination, and oppression. We declare ourselves an apartheid-free community, and to that end, we pledge to join others in working to end all support to Israel's apartheid regime, settler colonialism, and military occupation. If we don't come to a point to see who is the victim and who is the victimizer, who the people are oppressed and who is the oppressor, who is the occupier and who's under occupation. If we don't name it as is, we are denying the public the truth.
Now, you mentioned that this statement is being circulated in various communities throughout the state.
Around all United States and Canada.
And the United States, okay.
And Canada.
So you're witnessing and experiencing a growing population, a growing voice of people, both Jews and Gentiles, if you want to use that term, who are opposed to the existence of Israel as a Jewish state.
As a Jewish apartheid state, yeah.
Right. And you mentioned it to some extent, but let's elaborate a little bit further. What alternative vision do you have of Palestinians and Jews and all others for the Middle East, and particularly for Palestine?
I can talk about Palestine, and the rest of the Middle East will follow, you know, because you cannot live closing in yourself. We are no different than the rest of the Middle East, you know, and we have relationship through history. What I envision Palestine from the river to the Mediterranean Sea, as one democratic secular state where the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims and the atheists, they live equally together as in full citizenship, protected under a constitution and under the same law, you know. And let's take the religion out of it, because the mere saying Jewish and Gentiles, or you are otherizing us, the Christians and the Muslim people over there. You know, you are making us others. Right. And to be others, it means you are controlled by different laws, by different standards. And this is not acceptable in 2025, not acceptable ever.
Yeah. And as a Christian, I must also acknowledge there are deep pockets within conservative Christian communities who are supporting the existence of Israel as a Jewish state, because it feeds into their apocalyptic vision of the world ultimately being judged and quote unquote restored to a realm where the Christian God is in control of everything, and as the state of Israel, according to this Christian conservative concept, feeds into that. These conservative elements within Christianity are are less in favor of Israel existing as a Jewish state than they are in favor of the Jewish state of Israel that ultimately feeds into an apocalyptic vision of Christianity that will overcome both Jews and everyone else. So I need to acknowledge that element, which many progressive Christians also oppose. You are suggesting, and not only suggesting, but saying that there are a growing number of Jews, atheists, Christians, Muslims, people of various religious backgrounds, and those who have no religious affiliation, who are opposing the existence of Israel as a Jewish state. How realistic is that vision in light of the present day support of, as you mentioned, the United States for the strategic existence of Israel as it promotes their military objectives for the Middle East?
For the United States, it's a matter of interest. The moment the United States going to feel that their investment on something is not bringing them the gains and the profit they want, they will cancel it. It's always temporarily. This is how the imperialist power works. For the right-wing evangelical apocalyptic vision, they are the most Zionist, and they support Israel because of their own vision of what will happen in the future and how God will come back if you build the temple. And they are the most racist, the most anti-Jewish, and the most anti-Semitic of all. Ironically, organizations like Jewish Anti-Defamation League, they don't name it as racist.
Yeah.
But Anti-Defamation League will come and calling this as an anti-Semitic symbol, or my flag an anti-Semitic symbol, or saying a free Palestine, anti-Semitic symbols, and changing the law and taking my freedom of speech, because this is how they envision. They don't believe Palestinians has right. Yeah, so they go after our students, our children on colleges, and they harass them, they dox them, and they send organization Canary Mission, after them. I think the secular Jews, or the Jews who are against Zionism, they have to take a stance on the Anti-Defamation League. And us in our school, we should kick Anti-Defamation League out of our schools. They have contracts here in Vermont on many of our schools. And Jewish Anti-Defamation League is a racist organization when it comes to the Muslim, Arabs, and Palestinians.
I informed you of a question that I did not provide you earlier, but wondered if you might respond to it. The World Directory of Minorities and Indigenous People estimate that between 1.4 million and 3 million Palestinians live in Jordan, comprising about 50% of that nation's population. In addition, Queen Rania, wife of Jordan's King Abdullah II, is Palestinian. How would you respond? And I think you've already responded, but just let me specify. How would you respond to the suggestion of scrapping plans of a Palestinian state on the West Bank, and instead creating a life and identity among Palestinians in Jordan?
First, Queen Rania is a true Palestinian origin from city of Tulkarem, I believe, but Queen Rania is Jordanian too. One. to this kind of alternative nation or two-state solution where Israel is between the river and the sea and you Palestinians, go and take Jordan as alternative. And yes, Jordan always was, before Sykes-Picot, Transjordan, and it was East Bank of Palestine all the way, But the Israeli and the Zionist plan doesn't stop on Palestine from the river to the sea, and we see it. They occupied big chunk of Syria on the last year. They have Julan Heights occupied in 1967, and now they took the same size of Julan Heights inside Quneitra and other area. They're not going to stop. They're going to take Jordan. They're going to take bigger chunk of Lebanon. Now, after the last war, they built 5 different military bases inside the Lebanese, even though the agreement says they have to pull out, They are dreaming of taking over Egyptian land to the Nile, all the way to Iraq. So Greater Israel, this is their dream, and we're going to fight that. They are not going to stop on Gaza, West Bank, and say that. It's expansionist, imperialist, ideology, the Zionism, and they believe of what's so-called the Greater Israel. And we see the map of Greater Israel, which is not from the river to the sea, on their military personnel who are fighting on Gaza.
That map, how is that?
Large map, taking over Syria, big chunk all the way to Iraq, even to Turkey, even part of Turkey, taking Jordan, and taking even part of Arabia, the peninsula, Saudi Arabia now. Yeah, they are not to be trusted. Oh, take Jordan. No. They're going to create a condition. They think of supremacy. They think they can do it militarily. And there is nobody to stop them as long as United States and support them. The moment United States stop the support, everything will collapse.
Yeah. Well, Wafic Faour, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is an ongoing conversation that we need to have. And I really appreciate the individuals who have participated in this 3-part session on the Israeli-Palestinian. I'm not going to call it a conflict anymore, but certainly it is a problem that continues to not only affect the region of Palestine, but also every region in the world in which people who are concerned about equality and justice exist. And so this is a conversation that is difficult to wage, but nonetheless must continue to be waged and in which all sides are involved and engaged. And so thank you for engaging us.
Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you, and also thank you for listening. We will continue Talk Vermont. Our next session will deal with the state legislature, and we'll hope to have representatives from the state legislature talk about what are the objectives of our political system in Vermont, especially in light of the conservative agenda of the Trump administration. We hope you will join us, and until then, be safe, be blessed, and continue to seek the best for yourself individually and for our nation. We're glad to have you join us. Take care.
Let's talk about our hopes and dreams beyond the reach it seems. Let's talk. Confess I live in hell. I failed to fall in scheme. Maybe we can find a pathway forward or a clue. So we may together be a symbiotic harmony where I can talk. Let's talk, let's talk, let's talk. Let's talk.